Welcome back to another episode of the Office Hours podcast with Professor Brad Perkins. Normally on this, when we're talking engineering, I am all about talking about the mechanical side of things. And a lot with regards to that, a few people have said, you know what, you should have some other topics. Okay, well, with that in mind, I brought our resident construction engineering electrical champion and long time friend Jenny Baker with me to the studio today. Jenny is going to explain to me why the electrical emphasis is actually a decent option for people, and I'm going to explain to her why she's wrong. No, I'm not. I'm going to agree with her, and we are going to talk about why either mechanical or electrical is a very good choice for students while they are on their career here at Iowa State. So, Jenny, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, kind of give us a little bit of your background.
All right. Well, my name is Jenny Ziegler Baker, and I have been teaching here at Iowa State since 2007, I think.
2007, is it? Yes.
Long time.
Yeah, because I came here in 2005. Couple years into it, convinced you to come and teach here as well.
Yep, you sure did. Yep. So I got my degrees in architectural engineering from Kansas State. I have a bachelor's and master's, and then I practiced in electrical systems design. And so I worked in industry for a while, and
well, at the same place. We were both at KJWW Engineering, which is now merged.
IMEG.
Yep. IMEG, yeah, which is IMEG now. But we were both at KJWW there in the Des Moines office. I was there from 2000 to 2005. Mm-hmm. What year did you start?
I started in 01.
01.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
All right, so you came there a little bit, not long, but a little bit after I did, and then all right. So after KJWW, what did you do?
So then I went to work for Ferris Engineering in their Des Moines office. So they're based out of Omaha, but they had a Des Moines office at that time.
Okay.
And I worked in the Des Moines office, and then.
Well, then I hit you up with a hey. We just lost the guy that was teaching electrical systems, and could you come and teach that, kind of on a part-time basis?
Yep. And I wasn't so sure because I don't know how much to share on a podcast, but I just had a baby.
Right.
And I was, trying to figure out how to be a working mom, and I was not really comfortable with it. And you asked me, I was like, I can't take on more. I've got too much on my plate, and you're like, well, you could do it part-time. Potential for summers off, and I was like, I'm listening.
Yeah, and I will say that the whole being an engineer and teaching is the biggest advantage is a family friendly schedule.
Yeah, it helped a lot. So, but when I put in my 2 weeks notice at Ferris, they were like, you can't leave, and I was like, well. Yes. I am. And my boss was like, well, what if we let you work part-time remote? And this was like 2007.
This is long before.
No.
So
they let me work remote. I went into the office maybe once a month, but otherwise I worked remote. They would send me projects and I would work on them. And so I did both jobs for a long time.
You did. That's right. That lasted quite a while.
It did.
Right. And then ultimately, though, you ended up just being at Iowa State half-time?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. What's your appointment? It's a little more than.
So
half-time?
right now I'm 65% full-time equivalent.
Ooh, and you know what we should explain. Just in case somebody's, even students might not know. Like Renee, you might not know what that even means to be. Jenny and I are teaching professors, which means here at Iowa State, we're not tenured. We don't do research. We don't publish. We don't do those types of things. The both of us, we teach, and that's 90% of what our job is supposed to be. A little bit of outreach and service, but by and large, our whole thing that we're here, the whole reason that we're here is to teach. And it's a good gig because I'm not a researcher. I came from practice. Jenny came from practice. Researching isn't our thing, but it lets us do engineering. I mean, we're teaching what we are experts in, and I think that makes for a good teaching mix. I mean, Iowa State does as well. I mean, they think so much that they even put it in stone, on their seal, science with practice. Okay, well, that doesn't mean much if you don't have practicing engineers. So with that in mind, now so that everybody knows how Jenny got to be here and how I got to be here, like when I was a student in Connie, things were different. We did not have in-house mechanical and electrical classes. Dylan, did you know that?
I did not know that. No.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me introduce the other people that are sitting here in the wings, right? You want to go ahead?
Yeah, so my name is Dylan Busby. I was a spring graduate in 2017 of the Connie program Electrical Emphasis. When I graduated, I went to work for Commonwealth Electric, and I've been there ever since. And I am now a project manager for them in Des Moines office.
All right. So when you came through, so Dylan came through, and there is a mechanical class, there is an electrical class. Mm-hmm. Both of them taught in-house by Con-E faculty. Did not used to be that way. When I was a student and I graduated here in 97, those classes, we had to go to the ME department. Even the building emphasis folks took a mechanical class. There was no, Connie 352 and 353. Although, the Connie program is quite a bit different because back then we didn't even have a capstone class. Yeah, Jenny. Yeah, Jenny's like, you didn't realize that, Jenny?
I'm sure I've heard you say it before, but I didn't.
Yeah. No, there's no mechanical, no electrical, no capstone of either one. Capstone wasn't really. I don't think any department really had a true capstone class. It's kind of a newer. I think, relatively speaking, newer. Okay, none of these ideas are new, because it just means I'm getting old. But yeah, we didn't have the capstones, and we didn't have mechanical, electrical, and our two classes came about as a result of alumni surveys. Talking to an alumni, it's like, okay, what do we need to change? What do we need, for classes? What would help you when you graduate? And inevitably, it kept coming back as, we can't graduate without any knowledge of mechanical and electrical systems. Mm-hmm. Because the ME department treated it like a thermodynamics class.
Right.
Because they'd have, like a PhD student or a new faculty member trying to teach mechanical systems, and they had no idea about them. So they turned it into a thermo class.
Well, and when I first started teaching here, you and I co-taught
Connie
351, which was a 3-credit class of mechanical and
both.
electrical combined.
That was the first iteration, right? Think like sometime between 97 when I graduated and 2003 or so, they started this 351. And the whole idea was it was one class, mechanical and electrical, together for 3 credits. And then I took over teaching the mechanical, and when Chuck convinced me to come here and teach, we had an electrical guy so that we co-taught. He tried, but he didn't really know a lot about electrical. But he even knew less about mechanical, and he was trying to teach it both. I'll never forget one. I start teaching here, and then obviously all of you. Luke here hasn't had my 352 class yet, but you other two have. His idea of a psychrometric problem. He had this chickens in a freezer problem. How much refrigeration do you need to take 100 recently slaughtered chickens into a freezer and freeze them? He showed me this when I first started teaching here, and I was like, Russ, what is this?
Right.
Yeah. I was like, no. I mean, it's not that it isn't a real problem. Don't get me wrong. I go, but Russ, I'm like, this is commercial refrigeration type stuff. Mm-hmm. You need to be teaching them the basics of how to condition air. Let's start with air before we hit chickens. So he showed me this problem. I'm like, Russ, promise me you'll never show that to a student again. And he's like, I'm glad you're here because I really don't know what I'm doing in this. And, so I start teaching the mechanical. He moves on. Jenny teaches the 1 credit of electrical. And we should probably find some of the students that took that from us and go back and apologize.
Oh, totally. Well, when I see them, I do.
Apologize.
For Learning Community, we had an industry panel, and I was like, did you have 351 with me and Brad? Oh, yeah, I think. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
So sorry.
So much better now.
That's just almost wild to think about. Because, like you said, now it's separated. They're both their own class.
Yeah, there's 6 credits worth of class.
Right. Like, to think about compacting all of that into a 1 3-credit class.
And let me just say, both of us were both of us were much younger teachers, and we were straight out of the industry, and we probably tried to teach the same amount of content.
Course evaluation said this is like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
Like, it was
So this is probably how you got to be talking so fast.
No, that was natural.
Oh, okay.
That was natural. That's always been that way.
It's just a benefit. Like it
It's
helps
just it helps. But you're right in a little bit, because Jenny only had 1 credit, and man, she was flying.
Well, also
Same
when I
content.
started though, because when I started, Brad was like, we threw all the other guys' stuff away.
Yeah, we
start
did.
from scratch. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to teach them? He's like, teach them what you think they ought to know. And I
Yeah,
was like,
that's all the instructions she got.
so
Which is kind of nice, because it's kind of freeing, right? Right? Because there's no pre-existing conditions. I was like Jenny, just teach them what you think they need to know. And she's like, huh.
That was too wide open for me.
That was wide
I was
open.
just like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
And
Same content, 1 credit to Jenny. No labs. We didn't have labs. Right, but it was a lot. It was a lot. I know. Okay, so right. Confession of the first exam that I wrote in that class. Right. Remember the whole early stuff where you do load calculations and psych chart?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I wrote an exam for that, and I wrote an exam. It's my first one ever in that mechanical class. And I'm like, wonder how long this is going to take a student, because they only had an hour. Wonder how long this is going to take a student. I'm like, I'm going to take it myself. So I sit down, and I'm like, this is so easy. Maybe I think I made this too easy. But, I'm like, okay, do the calculator, right? I mean, like, actually solve it, because I needed an answer key anyway. And I solve it, and I'm like, 20 minutes. That's good. If I could do it in 20, surely the students could do it in an hour, right? Right, Renee?
Right, because we're all on Brad's skill level.
Well, okay. See, now there is a thing about teaching that I've learned. The better that you are at a subject, the harder it is to teach it. Back me up there, Jenny?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, to a point. I mean,
Right.
One of the things that you helped me recognize long ago is I have to remember that I've known this long enough that I think everyone should just know it. It's just common sense.
Yeah.
And you have to remove yourself from that.
You have to
because
remove
it's-
yourself from
'cause
that.
It's not common sense to everyone.
Well, no, it's not. But it feels like, so back to my class, I'm like, oh yeah, I made this too easy. I got this done in 20 minutes, but I'll make it harder later, and I give them the exam. And the first, so I'm like, okay, you have an hour. Here's the exam. Go. And I'm waiting. Nobody turns it in. Hour gets here. I'm like, hour. Anybody done? And they're all just like feverishly working. I was like, okay, the room's open, and I don't have anything to go do, so I'll just wait. I just said, hey, I understand this is the first time I've given this exam. You guys just go ahead and finish up. Just, finish up.
Take your time.
Yeah, well, no, I did not say take your time. I just said I will wait because nothing else is going on in this room. And then the first student turns it in 2 hours. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, 2 hours. So 2 hours comes, the first student, really good student, turns it in, and they're like, oh, my hand. I was like, oh, okay. And then, that they turn it in, and then someone else turns it in, and then like hour 3 is finally when everybody's getting the exam turned in. I felt bad.
I will say speaking of exams, that first, when we were co-teaching Connie 331, the first spring that we were co-teaching, so Brad would do like 1 credit of HVAC and a credit of plumbing, and I had 1 credit of electrical. So in the spring, he's like, well, I'll do the first 5 weeks, you do the next 5 weeks, and then I'll do the last 5 weeks. So he gave me the middle. So the exam's going to be the last Friday of our Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. In the middle, do you know what week the Friday of the 10th week wound up to be, like, every time?
Visha?
The Friday before spring break.
Oh, the Friday before spring break.
And the AGC service trip would usually leave like Thursday at 4:30 or something. So it was like I had all these makeup exams. It's like, Brad, you're giving me the worst spot.
Boy, it's almost as if I thought that out. I don't know.
I think I totally accused you of thinking that out.
I didn't, but it is brilliant. So maybe I should just take credit for it. I'm just going to own it, Jenny. I did think that. But so that all came from industry requests, and we're teaching this 1 credit class, and students are just like, "Ow, stop!" Like the reviews were like, "This is too much," It's just too much. I mean, they're like, it's good stuff, but it's just too much. And so eventually we took it and split it. And so it was a 3-credit mechanical. And then you end up being a 2-credit electrical, and then expanded it with your lab. Now it's a 3-credit class.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that works a whole lot better. I think it's a really good experience for building emphasis students, even if they never design a thing, or what. But I think this is critical stuff for our students to know.
It is just understanding the terminology, what types
Oh,
of,
yeah.
the equipment that's needed, how much space it's going to take up, having an idea of lead times and cost and all that.
Yeah.
Just because,
Well-
I mean, when a general contractor you're working with, Dylan, has an understanding of electrical systems, does that help the project go more smoothly? I mean, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I shouldn't have worded
To an extent.
Okay.
Yeah.
The understanding terminology is a big thing, right? Like you can walk in there and you can talk to them and they know what you're talking about. They may not accept the lead time that you were telling them. But no, it definitely helps. And I will say, I mean, I was a building emphasis when I first started. I guess a little bit more of my background.
Please.
I went to community college first for 2 years. I already knew I was coming to Iowa State to be a Connie. I knew that when I was in high school. And
How did you know that in high school? Okay, I just got to ask because most of us haven't even heard of Connie until just kind of run into it somehow. So how'd you know this in high school?
So I was in 8th grade. Whatever age that puts me at.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, I raced dirt bikes a lot, and I was traveling to different tracks across the state and stuff like that, and racing all these different people. And one of the races I was at, I was talking to this kid that I was that I was racing against, and he was at Iowa State. He was originally a civil engineer, but switched to mechanical, and I was talking to him about engineering and stuff like that, and I got into engineering because when I was younger, I always had this passion for figuring out and problem solving.
Okay.
Like when we were growing up, we had a dirt bike track at our house. We needed a way to maintain the track. And so rather than going out and buying a piece of equipment, my dad and I had a bunch of, the spare parts of other stuff just laying around. And my dad was like, you know what, why don't you design a field cultivator we can put behind our tractor to help till up the soil and maintain the track. So I put a design together, we built it, and it works. We still use it to this day.
That is awesome.
And so, like, my dad just, he saw the passion I had for building things, like, coming up with a design, figuring out, building it. And he's actually the one that kind of pushed me towards, like, hey, why don't you look into something of engineering? Like, that way you get to design and build and do stuff. And I'm like, that's a great idea. And so, in that 8th grade time frame, I was racing against this kid, and I was talking to him about his time at Iowa State, and he's like, here's what you need to do. He's like, I went to community college. I got an associate's degree. I transferred it to Iowa State.
Which, by the way, I strongly recommend. I think that's a great idea. As a parent of kids that are college age, use the community college for getting as much of that done. My son that came here, he did all of his basic program stuff at DMAC. Probably cost him half price, but anyway.
I would take it one step further.
Okay.
What he said was, the best advice he gave me was, don't actually get the associate's degree, because there's some of those classes that you bring over that don't apply.
Oh, that's true. That's very true.
What you should do is go to a community college that has an admissions partnership program with Iowa State, which all of them pretty much do at this point.
They do.
But take all of your math and science at the community college, where you will learn it better. You'll get a better education. You'll pay less money for it. Transfer those in, and then you're done. Because Iowa State in the engineering program, everybody knows physics and calculus and all those classes are weed out. They're designed to be hard to kick people out.
A weed out class?
Right. It's hard.
Really?
Stop
it.
I can't tell you how many times my classmates were like, man, that class was so hard. Well, yeah, it's a weed out class. Like, I don't know how you didn't know this before you came.
See, okay, so this is one thing that's different from the 90s to today. I think maybe in the 90s when I was a student, they were at least a little more honest, because I come from a time that was different. Okay. And by that, what I'm saying is, so I still remember going into the Engineering 101 class in Marston. There's big on the first floor. It's not a classroom anymore. But anyway, you go in there. They're like, all right, Engineering 101, blah, blah, blah. Most of you aren't going to make it. So look to your left, look to your right. Only one of you is going to graduate. That was a real statement. That's not like, I know that's like a joke now.
Mm-hmm.
They really had conversations like this.
Oh, sure.
And they're like, yeah, you won't. A lot of you will move over to the business about the time you get to physics. So, we're not going to spend too much time on you.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah,
it's different.
Really
It's
reassuring.
yeah, no kidding. It was like not a great feeling.
Yeah, they told that to us too. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
We're
So
similar time frame.
yeah,
though,
similar
so.
time frame.
Yeah.
It's just a different world then. So literally, I remember having a conversation with my friends that was a younger engineer, and I was a little older. I'd done the military before coming here to Iowa State, which thank God I did, because I probably would not have done well if I would have went to Iowa State engineering straight out of high school, where I didn't try at all in high school. I don't know if I would have done very well.
Sure.
But going through the nuclear power program in the Navy was good for me because it made me work.
Oh, sure.
It made me work hard, and that was a very good thing.
Yep.
But so I'm a freshman. I'm in one of these classes, and I made friends in the class, and one of the kids straight out of high school. One day, I always remember this conversation. We had it. We had it in the hallway in the math building while we're waiting. Because we were in this math class together. And he's like, it's like midterms. And he's like, Brad, I just don't understand what's going on. And I'm like, what do you mean? What's up? He goes, I've never worked this hard before in my life, and I'm failing out. And in high school, I was smoking weed twice a week, and I'm not doing that here, and I don't understand. Why isn't it working? Why isn't what I did working now? And I remember, being just so, brutally honest, because I felt for the kid. I liked him a lot, but once again, we had a lot different approach to things, coming from the military in the late 80s, early 90s. So I said to him, I'm like, man, you got to get your head in the game. I'm like, this university doesn't give two craps about you graduating. They've got your tuition. So what you do with it is up to you. And you need to buckle down and do it. And you got to do what it takes. And if you don't, go ahead and transfer out, because somebody will take your spot.
Yeah.
I go, if you don't understand that coming in, maybe I just need to tell that to you as a friend. And he just looked like I punched him, He was like, oh, you really think it's that way? I'm like, you don't?
Right.
Yeah. So awesome thing is that funny thing. He met his wife in that gosh, it was college algebra that we were in, right? We were in college algebra, and he ended up turning it around and ended up graduating in engineering, but
Nice.
but like you said, it's like you need to understand the purpose here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I've had lots of students ask me, like, why do I have to take calculus? And they're like, I had one group, they're like, how many times as professional engineer do you use calculus? And I'm like, me? Never. What are you talking about? I don't ever use calculus. I'm like, I knew it. It's bull crap. They're just making us pay for stuff that not necessary. I'm like, whoa. I didn't say it wasn't necessary. I said, this is a team tryout. You go over to the football team, they've got tryouts. And if you don't have what it takes, you're not making the team. If you can't get through calculus, I don't want you designing bridges and engines right, Jenny?
Totally, for sure.
If you can't make it through there, I don't want you designing buildings.
Yeah, and it does help you with your problem solving skills and being able to think about things in different ways.
Yes.
And it really does help to develop those parts of your brain and all that.
Right. But do you need calculus on a daily basis in our jobs? No. Do you have to pass it to be an engineer? Yes. So take it seriously. But if you can get better instruction in community college, rock on. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I had my calculus classes were pretty small. Like my Calc 1 class was probably our biggest, and we had like 12 kids in it.
Oh, whoa.
And we got into Calc 2 and 3, and well, 3 in differential equations I took at the same time, and we had 8 kids. So it was like very hands-on.
Right.
My physics class had 4 kids, including me.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
So what community college did you go to?
I went to Iowa Central Community in Fort Dodge.
Okay.
Yep. So, but both of those professors were fantastic. Like my calculus 2, 3, and differential equations professor actually lives in Ames, and drives to Fort Dodge to teach. And the only reason he wouldn't teach at Iowa State is he didn't like the bureaucracy of it. Like,
no way. Stop it.
Right.
Are you saying?
Yeah.
Jenny, did you know this? Okay, she's laughing so. What you can't see on the camera, she's laughing so hard over here. I think she's about ready to. Renee, if she goes to fall out of her chair, help her.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went to Iowa Central and did all those math and science classes, and I got a few gen eds out of the way. But so I took his advice. I did that.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole reason I knew I wanted to be a Connie was when I was like a sophomore in high school, I was trying to research like engineerings and where I wanted to go. And at the time, when you went on the College of Engineering website, you get a dive, like they have like a small blurb of what each engineering was like.
Right.
You know, what can you expect from them? And at the time, under the Connies, it was, these are the people that can walk by a building, point at it, and say, I built that.
Okay.
And I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. And so from that point forward, I knew Iowa State Connie program was where I was going to end up. Now, how I got there obviously took a little bit of a different track. Like I said, I went to community college and did all that stuff. I 100% would vouch for that again. Best decision. Like I said, I had 4 kids in my physics class. Like it was.
Oh gosh, yeah. Here, don't even get Jenny and I started on how nice it is to teach a small class.
It was like he went over lecture the Monday, and we were doing group labs the rest of the week. Like that's just what it was.
Okay.
But I got to know a lot of my classmates pretty well there too. But like that's how I got into the Connie program. And I will say physics 2, when I got through the electrical and magnetism portion, hated it.
Yeah.
Like
Me
I
too.
was going I
don't think they even teach it anymore.
Like
I was asking this question about I was lecturing on pumps just last week, lecturing on pumps and the issue of motors and starters and stuff came up, and it's like no one understands magnetism and motors.
Yeah.
I mean, not even a mild thought of it, And then I'm like, oh yeah, most of you took it at the Western place, so yeah.
Yeah, but I had in my physics class at Iowa Central, I had a kid who wanted to go into electrical engineering, and we got to that section, and he's like loving it, and I'm like, dude, this sucks. I already had in my head I wanted to become a Connie, but this like cemented in my head I was not going to be a double E.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. And,
okay.
And so I was glad.
Okay. All right. Keep going.
So I was glad, like I had in my head, like, you know what, I'm gonna go be a Connie and not a double E.
Right.
Right. And then I got into the Connie program. I transferred in and all that stuff, and I had that learning community class. And that back then, unfortunately, we were just thrown into building emphasis. So I'm glad that
which, by the way, that's not the way it is now.
I know, and I love that part.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right.
I think it's one of the best things the Connie program has done is not require that anymore, or not do it that way.
Yeah, not default everybody in the building.
Yeah. The industry panel is the other thing that I think is fantastic. Like you take away the automatic requirement of being a building emphasis, but you bring in people of industry to talk about the different emphases and allow the students then to make a decision on which one they want to do. I think is 2 of the best things I think is the learning community has done. And I love being a part of that industry panel.
Was it during learning community that you decided to be electrical, or did that come later?
Later.
Okay. So you're like, I'm a building emphasis. I'm gonna build buildings.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then what?
And then I got into 353.
Okay.
I was
Nothing happened between learning community and 353?
Nope.
Well, he was a transfer student too,
So
so he
yeah.
was like.
Well, he might have taken, like 241 or something.
Right, but they're compressed when
Yeah,
you're a
but
transfer
241 had this instructor that was.
Oh, 241 probably cured
that
you.
pushed you. That
Yeah.
pushed you into answering questions, even though you didn't have an answer.
No way. What kind of jerk would do that to you?
But no, so I'm glad that the 352 and 353 is part of the building emphasis curriculum, because if it wasn't, I wouldn't have taken Jenny's class.
Right.
I wouldn't have gotten into it and been like, this is really cool. Like,
okay,
being that I love the design side of being an engineer, the electrical emphasis allows you to do that.
So what you're saying is, if you're not wanting to order drywall your whole life, maybe looking at some of these other emphases is not a bad call.
I agree.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm just trying to paraphrase here.
Yeah. So like when I was in Jenny's class, you're sizing feeders, transformers, wire, panel boards. You're doing all that stuff, lighting design, and all that stuff. And all that stuff was like, this is really cool. I really like this stuff.
Okay.
I kind of then at that point started looking into it, and I remember sitting in your office, and I was like,
we were going through your course schedule and like, yeah.
And I straight up told Jenny, I said, Jenny, I did not like physics too. These 5 double E classes are gonna suck.
Yeah.
Well, they do.
They do.
I mean, let's be honest.
They do.
They do.
They do.
But there are classes that every emphasis has to
See,
take.
there's the
Yes.
thing. There's the thing. This is one thing I think that mechanical electrical definitely agree on. We have the same perspective of. A lot of students shy away from mechanical and electrical because classes like the double E classes or a class called thermodynamics sound scary.
Yep.
It sounds scary. However, you swap out a lot of other classes that a lot of Connies struggle with.
Oh yeah.
Steel design, concrete design, I mean, there is a bunch of stuff that is also not easy. And this is the thing. Someone was asking me about this. Isn't the mechanical emphasis harder than building? And I'm going to say, I don't know if I agree with that one. I don't think it is, because yes, you've got to take some mechanical engineering classes, but I firmly believe the ones that you are swapping for thermodynamics, heat and mass transfer, and then the HVAC classes, I think those have a much greater pass rate for Connies than, say, reinforced concrete design or steel design.
Well, and I think another thing to keep in mind is that you don't necessarily want to decide your path based on, how hard is the class going to be? But more so,
for sure.
What am I interested in? What's my end goal? Like, what do I want to be doing, and what am I interested in? And I think that's what Dylan and I talked about, like, because he's like, this is cool, this is what I want to do. It's like, yes, you have to get through these classes, but they're really, they'll help you solve problems when you're the senior person and something goes wrong or whatever. But in your day-to-day, you're going to be doing more of the stuff that's in my class.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Dill, would you say that being an electrical emphasis, okay, so another kind of fallacy I think that people think of is that, man, if I specialize, that means I'm going to narrow down my field of potential jobs and potential employers. Do you think that's true? It narrows it down, or does it really expand it, or what? I don't know. What's your thoughts on that now that you've been in the industry?
I don't think it narrows it down at all.
Yeah, I don't either.
Because
but Jenny and I are biased. Nobody believes us. They look at just what you're supposed to say.
The point in most recent reference is what you had a graduating class last year that not a single one went to an electrical contractor. They all went to GCs.
All the electrical emphasis.
Yeah, all the electrical
emphasis. We did have
emphasis.
a building emphasis go to work for an electrical
Okay, now that's
contractor.
funny.
So, like,
Yeah.
to specialize specifically in electrical, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, I went to an electrical contractor. It's great. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful thing to do. I think if you're an electrical emphasis, mechanical electrical, and you go to a GC, I think it kind of narrows it down to where you're not necessarily doing design work, you're doing more project management. But to get into that emphasis, it does not narrow your employer pool.
That's what I'm saying is it actually expands it because because a student with a mechanical or electrical emphasis not only are mechanical and electrical contractors, mechanical and electrical designers looking at you, but now your large general contractors, you also get put up to the top of the list with regards to, hey, they've got a little bit of a specialty. We can teach anybody concrete and steel. It's the mechanical and the electrical, because look at the modern building percentage of contract. Mechanical and electrical on just an average office building is probably what, 30%, 40%?
It's getting up to around that 40.
Yeah, it's getting around that 40 for an office building or a school.
Yep.
We're not even talking about like a data center or a power plant or a hospital.
Yep.
And if you look at where's the jobs at? Where are the big projects at? It's all pretty intensive, mechanical and electrical. And I think, now that you've been in industry a while, you probably see that that's actually going to get worse, not worse. It's going to get to be a larger percentage because our buildings are not getting simpler.
Yep.
They're getting more and more complicated.
Yeah, I actually just this morning or yesterday evening, I got a LinkedIn request to connect from an alum who works for a general contractor, but their title is MEP project manager at a general contractor. They were an electrical emphasis student.
Oh, who was it?
It was Lucas Gilman.
Oh,
okay.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so like all the big ones, Mortensen, J. Dunn, Turner, Burns and Mack, they all have an MEP side of it.
Yeah, Jeremy Cable, remember Jeremy? He works for DPR, one of the largest general contractors in the world.
Yeah.
He was a mechanical emphasis. He's one of the MEP coordinators, you know. And
if you look at any of the GCs, especially the bigger ones, the McCarthy's, the DPRs, like all of those have an MEP side of it. And a student who comes from that emphasis mechanical electrical looks very appealing to those guys.
Yep.
Because you have that background information, you speak the language, you can do all that stuff. And so I agree. It opens it up from a potential employer perspective for students for sure. The other thing is that a lot of people plug for too is generally the salaries are a lot higher.
Ah, no way. Oh my gosh. It's almost as if, is it true? Did you know this, Jenny? Oh wait, I think I tell people that all the time and they don't believe me.
This was part of our I also had a conversation with you when I was going to switch.
Right. And I said switch to mechanical. No wait, what did I say?
You did plug for mechanical.
Okay, I did.
Yeah, because I had to then backtrack. I'm like, no, don't listen to Brad. Don't listen to Brad.
But I will say what you told me back then was the exact same thing of, if you're a mechanical electrical student, you graduate, you go work at an electrical contractor design firm, it's much easier to do that switch to GC than it is to try to go the GC role first and then try to go back into that specialty contractor side of it. And I agree with that. I 100% agree with that.
And that is a great segue into professional licensure, because that's definitely also the other thing. It is much easier to become a licensed professional engineer going the design path or working for a specialty contractor than it is going to work for a GC, because not as many GCs have licensed professional engineers. And so it's one of those things where, yes, you can do it later. You can go that other way. But starting out with the specialty contractor or the MEP design firm, it's going to make it much easier to become a licensed professional engineer, which opens doors.
It does. Did you, hold on a second. Yeah, you've been out long. Have you gotten your PE license? Did you get that?
I have not yet.
You have not? Are you gonna try to sit for it?
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
all right.
What I'm going to sit for is up in the air right now because they did open it up into
a construction PE.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Although, oh boy, that is a good point. I guess you could go either way, and it doesn't really matter.
Correct.
Not in Iowa.
Right, not in Iowa. It depends on what state, but not in Iowa it doesn't.
And in Iowa, they waived the 4-year requirement.
So they didn't waive it, but you can take the exam at any time.
Okay.
You just don't get your stamp until you have the experience
4 years
required.
of experience.
Okay. But if you look at a lot of our larger mechanical and electrical construction companies, most of them have their own in-house design capability. Does Commonwealth? I guess
Yes.
I don't know. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so a lot of them, look at the design side of Baker Group as an example or something. They've got some pretty extensive design in-house capability.
Yep, and even some of the smaller electrical contractors do too. Renee worked for Nelson Electric, and they have
Nelson
in-house-
has PEs?
Yeah, so Nelson out of Cedar Rapids, not the Nelson.
Oh,
Cities,
okay,
but the
okay.
Nelson
I
of
was like,
Cedar
I thought,
Rapids.
okay, all right, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so, well, I think that, see, and I think you're right on that. It's like okay, now once I get my PE, Jenny just said that now even more opportunities are out there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go do my own thing, hang out my own shingle, be my own engineer. Sure, you can. Want to go work for a design firm? Yep. Contractor? Yep. Large general? Sure. Sometimes even large facilities like a hospital or they will hire.
Yeah, I just saw Luke Cummins, who
Luke,
he
yeah.
worked with. He was a mechanical engineer. He got his PE when we were working at KJWW. At least I think he got it then. But anyway, he is lead facilities engineer for Mayo Clinic, and he actually just posted on LinkedIn that they were looking to hire almost 40.
Oh no, you should. Oh heck yeah. Wait, are they looking to hire for mechanical?
I think it was just like a facilities engineer
Facilities
kind of. I don't know if it was
engineer?
specified. It was very
Boy,
specific.
I don't know if I
but-
qualify. What do they pay? No, that's up in Minnesota. That's going the wrong direction. I ain't moving to a colder place. Not happening. But I will say though that the facility at Mayo Clinic is amazing. I went there with one of our kids, and the whole thing is just amazing. But it always makes me think of Luke. Because he was hired. He was a coworker of ours. He gets hired, to go to the owner side of things. And oh man, I'd be curious to hear him. Maybe I need to get him on one of these. I would love to
totally
interview him.
Yeah,
Oh, I think I will. I need to.
Make sure I get to say hi when he's here.
I absolutely will. I absolutely will, because that'd be an interesting conversation. Going from the design world, being on the owner's side of things, but being at a facility as complicated as the Mayo Clinic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nothing there is simple, man. Not even their floors. If you ever walk across them, I'm like, what is this? One of them. Oh yeah, in the pediatric wing of Mayo Clinic, we're up there, and there's all these like animal prints and stuff in the floor.
Okay.
It's not tile though. It literally looks like a quartz or something like you'd see for a countertop. It's not terrazzo. I'm like, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And it's bugging me.
Yeah.
That I can't figure out what it literally looks like a quartz or a countertop. But
Like
everywhere
something.
in the waiting room and all the all the patient rooms and stuff. I mean, and that's just the floor. I'm not even going to get into the whole facility, but
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
I will say that reminds me, because when you go into actually just anything in Connie, to be honest, I walk into a building and I'm inspecting it. It drives.
It's a habit.
sure.
It's a habit.
It drives
We
my
all
wife
have.
nuts.
It's a habit.
Like we'd be
it.
sitting out to lunch or dinner or whatever, and I'm like just looking at stuff. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it.
Yep.
Don't worry about it.
Yep.
Like we were watching Chicago Fire one time, and they were
Yeah.
standing in front of an overhead door, and we had paused it for whatever reason, and I'm like, "That electrical box is crooked." She's like, "Only you."
Oh
When
no!
we watching
oh
a
my
show,
gosh. Oh my gosh!
It point out the electrical installation is.
I know being
Screwed up.
a Connie ruins half the movies in the world.
Oh yeah.
You're
100%.
like, he's crawling through that duct. No,
Yeah.
no,
Yep.
that's not a thing.
Yep.
Or
Or the
anyway.
fire protection system.
The fire
They
protection.
shut off one sprinkler.
Oh
they
my
all go
God,
off and-
that was just a question this week, Jenny. That was just a question. So they don't really do that, do they? If you hit the fire alarm, all the sprinkler heads go.
Yeah, you hit the fire alarm. and
No,
they
that's
activate. Yeah, no.
not actually how it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a habit we all have. So
Yeah.
I understand that. So okay, so now being an alum, and now we're gonna have we got a couple students here. We got even more that kind of watch this occasionally. Like, what would you say are like the biggest takeaways from the Connie program? Like, what was the best for you? I mean, you're an electrical emphasis. Obviously, the best part of industry is you get paid more. That's nice.
It is very nice.
That is nice. That is nice. So, but I mean, what are some of the that you remember from any of the classes going through, or some of the most helpful things?
Student orgs and stuff too.
Yeah, student orgs. I mean, the whole college experience.
Well, what I liked about the Connie program quite a bit is all of the student orgs. I was involved in.
Oh yeah, you did like 3 or 4, didn't you? Because you
Yeah.
did NECA, ADC, and NEHB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you attend the general meetings every week, but it's a way to network with your fellow students. And like I was involved with AGC not as a cabinet member, but more of just as a member of the student chapter. And the spring break trips and Thanksgiving break trips were fantastic. I was here for 4 years, so I went to community college for 2, Iowa State for 4. In my 4 years here in the Connie program, I went on 7 trips.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And the only reason I missed on the 8th one was because we had so many students that it was a lottery system that year.
Yeah, well, okay. Things are getting back to that level, but COVID really, okay. If I'm gonna say, you were here, I think, and Jenny, you can back me up on this, although you don't have to comment if you don't want to. But I think these were some of the like golden age of Connie kind of years.
Yeah.
You had someone like at every class. You had experts at it, and a lot of teaching. With Beth and Larry being here, Cliff teaching form work, and he's a expert at it. I think maybe your experience was probably about as good as it gets.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And
now I sit on the IAC, the Industry Advisory Council, and that's a lot of what we're hearing with the student interviews and stuff that we do from year to year. Was the COVID and pushing everything online definitely hindered.
Oh, that was terrible.
Of the overall experience of the Connie program. I mean, a lot of the interaction, the hands-on stuff, the group presentations, like all of that stuff is very essential when it comes to graduating and working in the industry. FYI.
Are you saying that public speaking is a good thing to learn while you're here, and to be put on the spot and questioned actually helps you later in your career? Is that what you're saying?
I may plead the fifth on that one.
I think you combined too many things. You're like,
oh, did I? Okay.
Well, if I keep piling on all this other stuff, then the stuff that he doesn't want to agree with will just get rolled in.
Keep
with
going.
The stuff he
Keep
does
going
agree.
there. Keep going.
But no, the whole presentation thing of the Connie program is what I took away a lot of it. The teamwork, doing group presentations, group projects, all of that is very essential when it comes to a very meaningful career in the Connie program in the real world, in an industry. Like, you as a specialty contractor, I'm working with GCs, and that teamwork and collaboration is how you get the project done. Like that's something that you work on throughout the entire Connie program, whether it be group presentations, group projects, or just study groups. Like, like you said, like you get into the program and you're stuck with, not necessarily stuck, but you're in classes with a lot of the same students. Like one of the Connie electrical emphasis I graduated with, Linda Bayer.
Oh yeah.
I was with her in Connie 222, like the contracts class, and we were kind of in the same classes all the way through. We took the double E classes together, especially the 400 level classes, which was great because you having another Connie in that class, like study group is Renee's shaking her head like she knows what I'm talking about.
One, I know Linda. I worked with her last summer at Alvine, I'm working with her again this summer. But yeah, the double E classes, it's really nice to have other Connies in there because you're all just as lost, and sometimes the double E's and computer engineers are speaking on a whole nother language.
Oh yeah.
See,
sure.
It's funny you say that. Like here in week and a half, I've got one of the alumni that went through at the same time as I did, Beth Duvajonk from Opus. She was a Connie at the same time. We did a lot of, when we were in Connie, we were grouped together in like estimating, and I mean like multiple classes together. And we took the double E class, and I'll probably tell her this when she's here. But she was the most annoying Connie to take a class with because she never missed a point. She had a straight 4-point GPA, and I'm like, aha, because I came from, I was electronics technician in the Navy, and I'm like, this is the class I'm going to outscore her on. And then she didn't miss a point on any exam or homework the whole semester. Pissed me off. But today, like, she's coming back to do a podcast with me. That's the program, isn't it? The people that you're in, I was in 221 with her, and then we're still keeping.
Did 221 exist then?
It did.
It
Hey,
did.
you're so mean. Jenny, you are so mean. Oh, my
Well,
gosh.
no, I just know
Listen
when
to
I
her. Did you hear that? Did
Yeah,
221
yeah, yeah.
exist? Yes, we had to carve it into stone tablets for our homework. I mean, that was a bummer. That was, and the abacus, I still, like going through that. But yes, Jenny, it did exist.
Well,
Honey,
I just know when I
exists.
started, there was Connie 245, which I thought was the precursor to 221.
No.
Wasn't it?
No,
Okay.
no, it
That
wasn't.
just shows how much I don't know.
No. It's had like multiple. 221 has had multiple iterations of. Is it? Do we shove contracts in there or not? And at one point they pulled contracts out to put it into 245, and then that was bad. And anyway, there's been a lot of iterations, with that. But we took Connie 221 together, and. Obviously we're still keeping in touch. And what I'm saying is, some of the Connies that you were with, you'll be around them the rest of your, the industry life.
Oh yeah, like the industry panel we were up here.
Mm-hmm.
Was it last week?
Yeah, just last week.
Yeah, last week. And that was one of the things that a couple of them touched base on was yes, the construction industry is big.
It's big, but it's small.
It is still small.
Yeah.
Like, just for an example, like Commonwealth got the Little Baron Hall replacement project. I'm project manager on there, and Caitlin is a fairly recent graduate, 23, I think is what she said.
Yeah, I think 23.
Yeah, Caitlin.
But like I'm a 17 grad, she's a 23 grad. It's still that familiarity of the Connie program.
Yeah,
that's there. Tristan Gelamo, his brother Jordan, went through the program too, and now he's at Turner.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, Jordan's at Turner now. He's also a 23 grad, I think.
Oh, he was. Oh,
no,
Jordan. Yes, I was thinking of Tristan.
Yeah.
Tristan, yeah.
Because Tristan's not at Turner, but Jordan is at Turner. Yeah, he went there right after graduation.
Yeah, and he's on a project that I'm on now. Cool. So like me being involved with the NECA student chapter, even after I graduated, I was still a part of it with like coming up and helping out with the it was GEC at that time. The
ECIC.
Yeah,
and which
the
you were
student
just
competition.
talking to our group the other day.
Yeah. And I was still going to NECA national conventions, and so like even that familiarity too, like still knowing some of the students at that time, I'm now seeing them in industry. So like that that piece of it is nice about the Connie program is you get familiarity with you have the same background that also brings you together when you're working on projects, but it's also like, hey, I remember you. Like, even though you're a couple years behind me, we still overlap.
Did you know? And maybe you graduated too late. Did you know any of the Cutler guys? The dad is Chuck Cutler, and his sons. I'm gonna mess this up. I don't want to say the wrong names.
Yeah, I can see their faces.
Yeah, you can. I know. Well, anyway.
No, I don't.
So okay, so this is the most Connie thing ever. So Chuck Cutler, the dad, calls me up. He's an attorney, and he's got this case where this building where the mechanical systems aren't working right. And he's like, hey, yeah, my boys, they took classes from you. I was like, oh, yeah, we're talking back. Where they at now? And he, tells me all this. And he's like, okay, so anyway, we need expert witness and that type of thing. And I'm like, okay, but hold on. Who are the parties? And, and so the owner that's suing, I didn't have any connection with, so I'm like, okay. Right. So anyway, we go to this, I hope you haven't been through a legal system like this on a project, but so the owner is trying to sue everybody. And so all the attorneys are there, and we're going to do this walk around the site on this VRF system. And someone is from the mechanical contractor, the mechanical engineer, the electrical engineer, the sales rep that sold it, all this stuff. And the funny part is, so I get there, and the guy that is the head of one of the principals of the engineering company, he's there, my best friend from college. I'm like, hey, what's up, and he knew that one going in. I already told him about that, and I'm like, okay, so we're talking, and then one of his younger engineers they brought with him was one of my TAs in class, and the sales rep. Well, sure enough, he was a student of mine in MCA, I mean, it's just like on and on and on. And Chuck's like afterwards, he's like, I don't think you're going to be able to be our witness, because you just know all these folks. And I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
You can't do a project because I've had, about 20 years now, I've had 1,000 different Connie students go through, plus all the people I knew in industry before that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I just gonna know. I'm like, part of me is like, Chuck, and Chuck did one of my first podcasts, right? He's great, but I'm like, Chuck, I taught your sons, I'm like, this is kind of how this industry rolls,
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, my wife gives me crap all the time because we could be like downtown farmers market walking through, and I'd be like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?"
Yeah,
she's like,
oh,
"There's how many hundreds of people here? You would know somebody."
Yeah,
I'm like, well, yeah.
Small world.
It is
Small
it
construction
really
world.
Yeah.
So, all right, okay. So back to your lessons learned. Okay, so one, I would absolutely agree with you on the get involved with student orgs.
Yes.
All right. Now, this is an ongoing. Actually, I don't know if you've watched any of the other podcasts I've done, but this is an ongoing theme. Get involved in the student orgs. Do stuff, both student orgs that are in your profession, and maybe one that doesn't have anything to do with engineering. Oh, Renee.
So let Renee talk about student orgs a little bit.
Yeah, Renee.
I am involved in NICA. I'm going to be the president next semester.
I see.
I am also the previous president of a sorority and the current president of the Multicultural Greek Council, which oversees a bunch of different student orgs. I think it's great to be involved. I know so many people. It's kind of
it's not great. It's necessary.
Oh, for sure.
No, and I don't mean that we should make it mandatory. I don't want to.
You have to join NICA to graduate with an electrical.
Although as long as you had to do that with MCA for mechanical, I would actually be on board with that one. But anyway, I digress. But what I'm saying is, whether or not it's the professional ones, that have to do with your industry, or it's the residential ones like fraternity and sorority, or it has, I don't know, here a few weeks ago, I had the boxing club in, the coach from the boxing team, because when I was a student, I was on the boxing club, right? And I think it's a great idea for, what's that?
Are you sure?
Are you saying I'm a pound or two above my fighting weight in college? That's fair.
Yes.
It is. I am multiples of pounds above. But what I'm saying is that getting involved in another student org that doesn't have anything to do with your major is also great because of what you're talking about, the network, the contacts. It's a small world out there, and the more people you know, the better it is. And the more people and really here. So you mentioned COVID. You know what happened after COVID is student orgs almost died. It is like collectively as a country, we lost our mind on how to communicate and talk to other humans, not on a Zoom call.
Yep.
This is one of the reasons why I don't like doing Zoom podcasts with people, because I like to have them in the room. It is a different conversation when people are actually here in person.
Yeah.
And I think COVID kind of made everybody forget that and get awkward with it. And especially, you look at like Renee, okay, so let me think here, 2025. So you would have been in high school, COVID?
Yeah, it was the end of my sophomore year that COVID shut everything down.
Yeah. And that's an important formative time, not necessarily for academics. I mean, who cares about high school academics, to be honest? Right? But the important formative stuff is the social part. Is the finding out who you are, finding out who your friends are, finding out what you're interested in. Yeah. And shutting that all down, well, post-COVID, MCA almost stopped being a thing. I don't know about, was NICA that bad?
All of our student orgs kind of got to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of our student orgs did. Look at the spring break trips where you had to be on a waiting list. They were begging people to go.
Right.
People were just like, all student org involvement, and not just here at Iowa State. Like when I was at MCA convention, every student advisor was having the same thing. My God, how do we get people involved again? How do we get people to do stuff? How do we get people to show up? Yeah.
It was definitely a big topic in the IAC gatherings.
Yes,
very much so.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, Renee, doing other things, with student orgs other than just what we do here in Connie, I think that's awesome, and I strongly urge everybody to do it. I mean, I don't know I think it's getting better post-COVID, but I don't know if we are not all the way that we were, say, like 2019.
Right. And I would say I think that I totally agree. It's important to get involved and to get involved within your program, but also beyond it, but also know your limits. And because
all true,
have
very
students
true.
I mean, when I was a student, some of my peers called me super involvement girl because I wanted to do everything, and I tried to do everything, and I mean, I did, but I did not sleep much, and but I have also seen students burn out because they're trying to do too much, and so there's value in knowing your limits and kind of keeping things in check.
Very, very good point. Very good thing. I mean, I think it's good to have one and one. One student org that's professional and one that doesn't have anything to do with your major or your industry, preferably one where you maybe get a little sweaty, maybe meet some other people, like an athletic one or I don't know, the IOC rodeo club or whatever it is,
or Habitat for Humanity.
Or Habitat for Humanity. Yeah. That's very similar, though, to being involved in one Connie.
Yeah, but you still meet a lot of other
people. It's still
different
people. You're right.
And I would say our student chapter of AGC is like super involved in intramurals. So while that is not like the boxing club, like you can be pretty physically active through AGC.
Well said. You're right. They do quite a bit of the athletic competitions.
And I believe they are intramural champions in multiple sports. Do you know, Luke?
Yeah, I think we are in broomball. I think we're pretty good, but we have several teams that do broomball and soccer, and then also my sophomore year, we're kind of there's a lot of frat guys and frat girls and sororities and fraternities in our class, and a lot of them are in their own frat sports. So there's a lot of soccer stuff going on, and there's also broomball teams from those certain frat and sorority groups.
True.
And also in AGC this year and last year, I kind of noticed there's a lot of people in fraternities and sororities, so I feel like our attendance is down a little bit. But the freshmen that are coming on this year, there's probably like double the attendance for them, which is pretty awesome. And then also, I just feel like we're a lot more engaged compared. I feel like this cabinet is a lot more engaged than last year's cabinet with the coming in students from freshmen.
Well, that's really good. I mean, because it's transferring from, especially if you go straight from high school to Iowa State, that can be a pretty intimidating thing. If you go to a high school, like the high school I went to, there's like 50 people in our class, and then all of a sudden you're in a place like Iowa State, and suddenly you feel disconnected. And the freshman classes, they're not all just Connie. They're it's not like 241. You're in that math and physics and all these other big classes, and it does feel easy to kind of fade away into obscurity. And getting them involved as freshmen, I think, is a really, really good idea, because then it gets them to feel like, okay, I belong here. There's some people I belong with. There's people that are having a similar experience that I am. Because and this is a topic of one of my upcoming podcasts I'm going to do with Beth. It's mental health and students and construction, because we get the talk we get from Iowa State Human Resources every year. The rates of things like depression, anxiety, they're not good. They're not. So the more that you can do to get involved in something is just I'm an engineer, not a psychologist. Should you need real psychological advice, do not consult a podcast. But anyway, I do have a few years on this planet, so I feel kind of qualified to say it definitely helps being in community.
Yeah, it just helps you have a support system, whether that support system be your study buddies or just hey, I'm having a really hard time with this, or I'm homesick or whatever. But when you develop that community, it does help.
So I guess, Luke, I mean, you having that fraternity background, does the Connie brotherhood, are those two very similar experiences for you?
So like I'm a lot of my friends are a part of fraternities and sororities. I'm not actually in a fraternity but I would say when I was in high school and I figured, the definition of like a fraternity or a sorority, I feel like those people wouldn't be engaged with other, normal, just people that live day to day inside class, and don't go and aren't involved in sororities or fraternities. And I'm very thankful for, I would say, our year that those guys are involved with all the classmates, and it's not just like excluded. It's totally different from that, from high school and anything else. So I don't know. Yeah.
Well, Renee, what would you say? Do you think being in a sorority is a help? For getting through. Is it as close or closer than the Connie network? I guess if you had a perspective on it.
Yeah, so one thing to note, my sorority doesn't have like a house or a chapter facility, so I'm not living with a bunch of girls, which is a little bit different. But I definitely think that it's a different kind of relationship. Like the sisterhood I have with like my sorority sisters is a lot different than like the friendships and relationships I have with like all the other Con E students. But I wouldn't put one above
Oh no, I wasn't asking. I'm sorry,
yeah,
I wasn't
but
asking,
like
which is better.
I do definitely think that like it is kind of shocking. Like I would not have expected so many people in the Con E community to be also in like the sorority and fraternity community. Like when I came in, I didn't really envision those being like the same like Venn diagram, I guess. But I do think that like I don't know, it is a different community, and I am glad that like the people in like at least my class for Connies are so involved in just everything else, not just construction engineering.
Oh, good. All right. Well, something I was thinking earlier that I want to come back. Another thing that is different from when I was here as a student that I think maybe you might be qualified to speak to is that we didn't have. Remember, I said we didn't have that capstone experience, right? And now these two have not taken capstone. I mean, you have. It's definitely different than it was. Do you see that as a valuable experience? What was your takeaway from capstone? I guess, because it didn't used to be what's that?
The design build.
Yeah, I'm talking.
We have two capstones.
Yeah, okay,
so.
and I'm talking more about design build because that's what Jenny and I both teach as technical advisors. The capstone. She teaches the electrical part, or she's the not teacher, but the
technical
advisor for electrical. I am the technical advisor for mechanical. It occupies a lot of our lives right at this second because grades are due in hour and a half. I don't have mine in. Jenny's not going to have hers in because she's such a slacker. But anyway.
He's right. I am not going to have mine in. But Steve gave me more time.
He gave me more time. Gave her more time. Didn't give me more time.
Because if he gives you an inch, you're going to take 3 miles.
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you.
True. I'm not arguing. I'm not saying you're wrong.
No, I valued the design build capstone a lot.
Yeah.
It gives you, especially for the electrical and mechanical emphasis students who want to go out and into the design side and not just go into construction project management. That gives you an opportunity to real world experience of what exactly you're going to be doing. Like having that familiarity with how Revit works, how to input stuff, how to place things, move things, all that interaction is really nice because you're going to be doing that. Like, I graduated, went to Commonwealth, and I have done some design stuff while I was there, and having that Revit background or having that design background allowed me to do a lot of stuff. It allowed me to all of Commonwealth's in-house engineering is based out of Omaha. It's a corporate division within our company, but all of the personnel is housed in Omaha. And so by having that design build capstone or that familiarity with it, it allowed them to be like, hey, here's a piece of a project we'd like you to work on. And I was able to do it, So yeah, I definitely valued the design build capstone, especially because like I got to do the portion of that capstone that I wanted, which was electrical.
Did Jenny grade it for you?
Yes.
Okay. she pass you, or
Yes.
You don't have to answer
so
that.
Brad
You don't
spreads
have to
rumors.
answer that.
He
Rumors,
spreads
they're not okay.
rumors.
Jenny, I will take back anything I have said about your grading that is not true. Go.
I need more time.
Okay, what she means by I spread rumors is that at the start of the semester we always go over this. So the two of you, Renee, you're going to get it soon, right? When are you doing capstone?
Or next spring.
Yeah, I'm taking capstone next
spring. Okay, next spring. Renee, next spring. Let me tell you what's going to happen. Jenny and I are going to go into this room, and we're going to have all the mechanical and electrical students there, and we're going to tell them some basic things. And some basic things are,
Jenny fails the most amount of people, is what I have heard. Hearsay, obviously.
No, that's not hearsay. Those is the
hearsay.
facts. It is not. Steve keeps track of this. You know this is the truth, Jenny, right? Tell me. Look in the camera and say, I, Jenny Baker, do not have the most fails entered in the grade book of any technical advisor.
I have to change the words a little bit.
Uh-huh.
But I do not fail anyone.
There we go.
They fail themselves.
They fail themselves. Okay, then allow me to say this. More electricals in capstone have failed themselves than any other emphasis.
Are you sure any other discipline? I don't know if that's
What other
any
discipline? What other discipline would be higher?
It kind of depends on who's doing geotech, but I think geotech's pretty hard.
Not always. Not
Well,
always.
I said
I'm talking
depends.
about the
I said
same.
depends.
Okay, all right. Okay, but here, Renee, the thing that is fascinating to me is at the start of the semester, it's always the same message. It's like, hey, take this seriously. Get started now. You're going to turn this into experts. Give them what they want, right? And Jenny prepares this awesome, beautiful checklist for people to use.
It's the design guide. Dylan got pretty much the same thing. It's just kind of evolved, but he knows
Right,
what you're
the
talking
design guide, right?
Yeah.
She's got
Oh,
this
yeah.
beautiful design
It
guide,
is. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And then she'll text me, "Oh, the student didn't give me what I wanted. I have to deduct all these points." And I'm
He's
just
paraphrasing.
once again, am I
You are
paraphrasing?
Well, yeah.
No, I'm recording you next time you do it. That's all there is to it. Okay, but the point is that she's got this layout of everything to do, and then when people don't do it, she's like, okay, I got to take off for this, and I've got to take off for this, and I've got to take off for this, and it's just fascinating to me that the steps are there, the instruction. Jenny gives way better instruction than I do, because we have a little bit. Renee's like, yes.
I cannot confirm nor deny that statement.
I will let you confirm it. She gives way better instruction than I do, but we have a little bit different philosophy in how we handle this. Because I know I'm a little more vague. Therefore, when I go to grade, I can be like, well, they kind of went over what I asked for on this part and didn't do what I asked for on this part. So I can be more, I guess, holistic with regards to the grade rather than prescriptive.
So I was kind of starting to suspect this the other day, and I don't know if a podcast is the place to air it.
Oh,
but
go ahead. I can edit it out if I don't like it.
Because every semester, Brad's like, "How many are you feeling? How many are you feeling?" And I think he wants to know how many electricals are going to get enough, because then he can make sure fewer mechanicals do.
Okay, all right. You think that's it?
Diabolical plan.
Oh, you do? Okay, here, Renee, in your heart of hearts, do you think I would pass people that didn't deserve it?
I do not think so.
Exact. There. See, that's all I need. That's all I need. Right? Okay, well, I tell you what, you got some of the mechanicals that just went through it, and they'd probably be like, I would have preferred an anonymous F over that brutal D I just got. Because so Luke and Renee, you're going to turn in a notebook to Jenny that she's just going to grade without you there. Whereas I have the mechanicals come in and give me we do this. They do a defense, which is like, all right, here's your notebook. Where'd you get this? Where'd you get this? Where'd you get this? So we do an interview, and the reason I do that is just time savings. I'm watching Jenny grade these, and she'll spend hours on one of them, and I'm like, ugh, I just don't have that kind of time with, and Jenny doesn't have this
that kind of time either. I just
but you do it.
Just don't sleep.
Yeah. So to do it and to do it right is tough. So I just find a way to condense it, and I guess it's like I said, it's two different philosophies on it.
You don't just go over the weight of the notebook anymore?
The weight of the notebook, yeah.
In 241, the second lab my group turned in, we handed it to Brad, and he went, "Seems kind of light." And I will ever forget that day.
Well, okay.
Hold
on.
It was kind of light.
I was gonna say dispute that. Yeah, please tell me I was wrong. What'd you get on that grade? I bet you still remember.
It was a D- or whatever. It was 1 point above
1
an
point
F.
above an F.
And the TA said, "We felt bad failing you, but if you did this in industry, you would get laughed at." And they're correct.
See, and I didn't even touch it. I don't touch lab grades, on purpose. This is a thing.
But to that point, that rumor has been going around since Dylan was a student, because students will say that to me all the time. "Oh, well, just print everything single-sided because Brad grades it by how much it weighs."
Absolutely wrong.
You have to print it single-sided. You can't print it double-sided.
Exactly.
You won't let him print it double-sided?
No, I don't want to look on the. No, heck no. Right, and they've got to print it in a font I can read. Right?
Which is getting larger.
It's getting larger. It's 12-point font now. I don't know. Next year it might be 14. I'm gonna tell you what. I don't know.
You're gonna need 11.5 by 17s all the time.
Oh no, I hate folding them. I hate folding them and unfolding them.
Well, you got to teach them how to. Do you still teach them how to fold it though?
Yes. No, but that's what I'm saying is I don't want to sit here and unfold all of them. Going through it. But yes, they have to fold it the right way. That is correct, right? Right? Look back. That's a real thing?
It's a real thing.
Yep.
But I have mistakenly just used the normal size paper to turn in big lab plans.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, see, I've got See, that's one of the requirements to be a TA in 241. You have to have a little bit of a mean streak. It's kind of a requirement.
Yeah, and if you don't know how many pages to turn in, it's always like a default of like, well, if you don't have 50 pages, you'll probably get less than a B.
Well, see, this is the beauty of using undergraduates as TAs, right? Because they have gone through the same experience. You cannot, it's like, and let's be honest, you turn stuff into a professor, maybe you just never know how close they're looking at and how much, maybe as a grad student, maybe they didn't even take these classes. But, having your grader be an undergrad that has recently taken that class, they know exactly what it takes. And the students are the best ones at spotting somebody that's cheating or half-assing it. Mm-hmm. They can spot it easily. They're talking to me, "Hey, look at this. This is terrible." On and on. Kind of like what you said. Your feedback, for the students, they're like, "Yeah, you'd have got laughed at." Okay, we felt sorry for you and gave you a D-. All right, that's very student feedback, and that's a good thing, because one thing I have noticed in our program, I'm going to go out on a limb here. As students, maybe you can argue with me or not, but I don't think within our own Connie classes, I don't think we have as much. I'm not saying none, but as much of a problem with like cheating and finding answers online and Chegg and all that stuff. I don't think we have as much of a deal with that, because I don't think their peers would put up with it.
You have to be really creative too with what you turn in. Not everything's the same, and
yes,
with what you're given in 241 and 251, a lot of stuff is pretty vague. So
on purpose.
Yeah, on purpose. And I think that's a good part, because it shows that when you actually have a job or in the industry, you don't have a checklist of things to go by.
Yeah.
It's just you have to develop that mindset early.
Renee, I mean, as a senior, do you think that's a fair statement, is that your own peers probably wouldn't, if you were doing a team project and they knew you were, I don't know, copying off of somebody, they probably wouldn't put up with it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because, you're going to work with these people in the future, and why would you want someone right now in a class that, there's no money attached to that, except for, what you paid for tuition?
Right.
Why would you want them to be able to get away with it now when you're going to have to deal with that in the future if they think it's okay, here and now?
So that is a common thing I say at the start of the semester. Just don't do it. I mean, I don't care if you did it for your Iowa Western Community College physics class that you took online, whatever. But please don't do it in your Connie classes. It is just not worth it. Just not worth it. the reputation part.
Well, and as our now retired colleague Larry Cormichael used to say, like, you're paying for this knowledge. So do you go through the drive-through, and do you remember them telling you this story?
Yeah. Larry is
you might remember it better than I do then.
Well, yes. There's so many of them that
there's so many Larryisms.
Yeah, there's so many of them. But yeah, it's the words. His words are so true.
Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah, because he would say, well, like, so how many of you have ever gone through the drive-through? And everybody raises their hand. It's like, do you go to the first window and pay for your order and drive away? And everybody's like, no, why would you do that? He's like, that is not coming to class. That is not learning the material.
Yeah, it's not doing the work.
Because you are paying for it. And if you don't do the work and learn the material, you just drove from the drive-through without picking up your meal. Like,
yep, true statement.
I mean,
true
he
statement.
said it much more eloquently than that, but
no, but it is. Yeah, is definitely true. And I think, personally speaking, of course, Jenny, you and I are biased, but I think our graduates, and we got a graduate and senior, and are you sophomore or junior there, Luke?
I'm a sophomore.
Okay, so we got a kind of a wide experience here, but I'd like to think that our students get a pretty good value, maybe compared to some of their peers in other programs and departments on campus.
Oh yeah. Well, I think evidence of that is the Connies in like the double E classes, for example.
Yeah. Like
in the 400 level class, you're in. And Renee can attest to this too. You're in there with a bunch of electrical engineers and software or computer engineers. And I remember, I think it was 457 was the class I was in at the time, and I had Linda and Caleb in there with me. And we got our first exam back. Class average was like a 63. So professor graded it on a curve, but I got my exam back and it was like an 84. Caleb was like a 78 and Linda was like a 75. And like I remember sitting there and I'm like, what did these kids learn?
Oh,
like this is
I say
this that they are supposed to be rock stars in. They have taken double E the entire time.
I say that frequently at Renee, when there's a mechanical engineer in the class, and I'm asking questions of, this is a common thing. It's like, well, what did you learn in black engineering, with regards to pumps or whatever? Yeah.
Just this morning, one of the double E's that's taking Connie 353 is also taking your 352
Asa.
class. Well, I wasn't going to out him on the
What's
podcast.
That? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
But he said, oh, man, sometimes in class, Brad will be like, oh, what do you mechanicals learn over there in black engineering? I'm so glad you don't do that. Thank you for not doing that to me.
Thank you. Well, it is a little bit of shock to the mechanical engineers because, in this particular semester, we have a total of 20 in the class, and the mechanical engineers are not used to that. And they're definitely not used to an instructor that would call them, ask them questions in class. It's like, hey, what's the first law of thermodynamics? And they're like, or what's the unit of measure that we use for cooling? Tons, and they're like, they have no idea what that unit even means. They're so it is a little bit of a different world going from a class of 50, 60, 100, 200 down to our current 352 and 353 class of 20. And then now these mechanical engineers are like, I am not used to people asking me questions. Definitely not used to that. So it is a little bit of different of experience. But like you said at the community college, you know what? Having taught for so long, I tell you what, I am almost always a better instructor when I have a smaller class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's just the way it is. So you can get more personal with students, and you can ask them questions, and you can also make sure people understand what they're doing better. I just, when I've taught bigger classes, you just know that, like, let's say that it's a class of 80 or so, and it's in, one of the larger rooms, maybe not a large lecture hall, but a larger room, with no slope to the seating, and you're like, you just know the back third of the class that they're checking their email and they're watching videos or something, and I don't blame them, in a big room like that. But it's just you're able to be a better instructor, and that's the thing that I think the mechanical engineers enjoy and yet are fairly traumatized by. Is the calling them out and asking questions kind of thing.
I didn't mind it, honestly. I guess I didn't mind it from the aspect of it kind of expanded your problem solving thinking ability of like.
Oh yeah, that's the point.
Right. Like Brad does not take I don't know as an answer.
See, yeah, Renee.
Yeah, being told that you can't say I don't know definitely makes you come up with some good engineering guesses.
Engineering judgment. That's what I'm after.
Yeah.
Right? And it's okay to be wrong. See, that's the beauty of being an engineer. Perfection isn't the standard. Yeah. But not even trying is not that's not acceptable. So
right.
So anyway, I mean, so there is a little bit of a method to the madness, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Did you have any mechanical engineers when you took my class? Do you remember? Were there any in there? Because there's not always.
No, not straight mechanical engineers.
Yeah, you see straight mechanical engineers. It's always fun. It's always fun to have them in the class. So
sure.
So I think the class is better.
We didn't have any doublies either.
Yeah, I think back in Dylan's day, our classes were pretty good sized, and there may
they
not
were
have been room.
That could be. How many people were you in class with?
We filled that.
Yeah,
Burns
classroom. That's
yeah.
the thing is the Burns McDonald classroom only has so many seats, and if more students register than we can put in seats, then the electives get kicked or not even allowed in.
Yeah, like 241, 352, 353, we filled that classroom.
Yeah,
if anything, we only had maybe a handful of seats open.
Yeah. See, and that's a lot for a design class. If you're going to do a real experiential learning where like in 241 you're actually working on group projects, and in 352 and 353 you're working on group projects, it's hard to do that when you get north of about 45 students.
What is the max of Burns in that classroom?
They've made it smaller.
Yeah, so back in your day, it was like 61, I think.
Yeah, it was like 60.
But now it's like 45.
I think it's 45.
49. It might be 49.
Yeah.
But it's in the 40s.
Well, if you kick out his pump displays, you could get like
that is
20
true.
Not happening. Not happening. Why do you think I put that stuff in there? So we can have bigger classes.
And you just told the whole world you're
Oh, I doubt the administration's listening to my podcast. It's mostly Connie alum and students. Right? Hey, if we can't have honest conversations on a podcast, what's the point? You know what I mean?
He's just going to edit it out anyways.
No, I'll probably leave that one in there. Are you
going to talk about your closet theory too?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Jenny and I
like Brad's closet theory.
But you agree with it. Come on, you know it's true.
You
know it's true. So the closet that we have our stuff in, just kind of a disarray, right? And Jenny's like, we should clean this up. And I'm like, Jenny, the second we and what she means by we is she means me, which is legit. Your stuff is neat and all put away, right?
Actually, Dylan built the racking system.
Dylan built the system.
Yeah.
Well, it's very neat, right? But the problem is if you make it too organized and you don't take up all that space, sure as the world, and this is true, Jenny, somebody else will start storing their crap in there.
I know
this happened.
But
this happened. Remember we had those stupid racks?
Wall, and you always have I just had lab today and had to put all this crap in the hallway so we could get to the equipment and then put it back and then put all your stuff back in there.
Well, the good news is you can put it back in whatever order you want to.
That's true. That's true.
Way
to find the silver lining.
Yeah, thank you. But
you could just leave it out there for somebody to take.
Right. Well, who's gonna take it?
Well, actually, I thought about that after the words came out.
Yeah. But at one point we had that like stuff out, and then remember they put a bunch of like iPads. Like a chart, like this rack and cart, like a couple carts to charge iPads. We go there and we're like, what in the hell is all this stuff in our way? And I'm like, see, Jenny, we need to leave it looking like it's full so the other people don't touch your stuff. So I
think there are binders in there dated like 2017.
I bet we could find
Dylan's notebooks.
I bet one of Dylan's notebooks is in there. I bet you're right.
I know my 353 is not in there because it's actually sitting in one of my shelves.
Well, and 353 I don't put in there. Only Brad puts notebooks in the storage.
I've got to expand to fill the space. I've got to expand to fill the space. You do. Otherwise, somebody will put stuff on there we don't want. Jenny, come on now. You know this is true. Oh, yeah. Okay, so you took your 353 or 352?
Yeah, I gave them to them for the 353 one.
No, 352.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. How'd you get the 352? Did I give it to you?
I
don't normally give them to students to keep.
Well, so it was JT and Arthur and I.
Uh-huh.
For some reason, I think you gave it to one of those two for something.
I will give it to them if they ask for it. I mean,
so back in the day when I did hard copies, because now I do electronic copies.
Right.
I've been doing electronic for a while. We just can't get
you.
Brad to get up to current times.
Heck no.
But anyway, when I required hard copies, then in Capstone, if they were doing electrical in Capstone, can I? So I would let them check it out, and then if you were the last person on your 353 team to graduate, you could take it with you. But if you had peers who were still going to potentially be in Capstone, then you had to leave it in case they needed it. But now that it's electronic, I don't have to keep track of it because everyone can have their own copy, and it's not on me.
Yeah, so I think JT or Arthur had got it from you for some reason, and then it just fell on me.
Okay. They just gave it to you. You're like, we're going to throw this away.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, keep that thing. So if Luke would ask you for a copy of it, right? Make sure you change numbers so they're really ridiculous.
Okay, I can do that.
Well, I say that it's just funny because some Connies have done that to other people.
Oh, really?
Giving them bad numbers and stuff. Never cheat off of another Connie. I'm just saying they will screw with you. You know, they will probably give you bad numbers on purpose just to laugh at you later.
I could see that.
It's real. It's real.
Yeah. I could definitely see that.
We had one semester in Capstone. Student comes up, he's like, "Hey, I got these. Could you check my numbers?" And I'm looking. I'm like, "What is this? This is so wrong." And I'm like, "What is this?" And he goes, "Well, I go, where'd you get?" He's got his calculation. "Where'd you get this number right here?" It was like some weird constant or whatever. I got this from Capstone. I'm like, who? He told me, and I go to the student. I'm like, "Hey, are you giving out like really bad numbers, to your peers?" And he goes, "Look, he was one of the mechanical emphasis. He goes, I am tired of these guys instead of looking up themselves, just asking me. So yes, I'm just making up stuff. If they ask me, for an equation or a constant or a standard or something, I just make them up." I'm like, I love it. Do it. Keep going. He was just tired of peers just not doing the work, and it was easier for them to just ask a question than it was to actually do any research themselves. So he's just making up numbers. I'm like, I love that. Right? I'm like, rock on.
Right, because there is a balance. Like we do want
everyone
to learn from each other.
But yes.
But
yes.
But just trying to steal the work from someone else is not.
That's not okay. That's
okay.
That's right, and that's where he felt things had gotten, is that it wasn't collaborative work. It was like, we'll just go to him and get the number, and he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna mess with him. So anyway, like I said, don't trust Connies when they're handing out answers. Okay, all right. Well, I don't know, Jenny. Did this meet your criteria for a positive review of the electrical emphasis?
Yeah, but I feel like we talked about electrical very little.
Okay, well, what did you want to say about electrical? I mean, I thought I did. I thought they make more money, have better job options. It's not all that much harder than the regular emphasis. I mean, those are the highlights, right?
Yeah, well, Renee didn't share why she picked electrical.
Ooh, that's right, Renee. Yeah, we need to get Renee's take on this.
So I actually came to Iowa State as a civil engineer. Boo, I know. That's unfortunate. And then one of my friends, Ryan Farrell, he works at Baker Group now. Yeah. He was like, "Well, why don't you just do Connie? It's better than civil." And I was like, "You know what? Like, you might be right." And so I switched to heavy highway because I wanted to do highways and stuff.
Okay.
Infrastructure emphasis.
Whichever.
Or whatever.
Whatever.
But I wanted to do that, but then I talked to Gatto a little bit about it. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to move dirt for the rest of my life.
I would like everyone out there to know that I did not tell Renee to say that. Anyway,
yes,
continue,
I
Renee.
am not
Disclaimer:
paid.
this is not a paid. I did not coach her in any way on that. Please continue, Renee. You're on a roll.
I really didn't want to do heavy highway or infrastructure or whatever, and Ryan was very good at convincing me to do electrical. My grandpa and uncle are electricians. With the IBEW, so like that was
actually does make sense.
That was a big plus, and so electrical and the money. I mean, being told electrical
you got to
makes
go to
most
work.
money.
You got to go to work. Okay, well, okay. I don't know if that's always true. Mechanical is there, but you know what? It's close enough. Can we call it a tie?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's call it a push. Okay, keep going.
But yeah, that was really, and then like all of the networking opportunities, being able to go to Puerto Rico with Electri and NICA, and do a little service there. The NICA National Convention, the ECIC team has really been like why I've stayed, why I've kept doing it. All of the alumni connections, talking to people. Oh, have you gone through Brad and Jenny's class yet? Like just.
It is a rite of passage among mechanical and electrical for sure.
Just all of the like alumni connections and just, I don't know, it's a fun program to be in.
Okay. Do you feel like, so you're as a senior, do you feel like going electrical has like expanded your opportunities for where you're going to work and what you're going to do and that type of thing?
Yeah. So my first internship was with Nelson Electric, an electrical contractor out of Cedar Rapids. And then last summer and this summer, I'm working with a MEP design consulting group. If I wanted to, I could go GC. I feel like there are so many options, more options than if I would have stuck with civil or heavy highway.
Okay. All right. Well, that is pretty comprehensive review there, Renee. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. Jenny, did that satisfy what you wanted to get out?
Thank you.
Did that help? All right. All right. Well, I don't want you leaving here thinking, I left some stuff unsaid. Right?
Yeah. I should have made myself a list.
You should have made. Should have had your design guide, right? Oh, I gotta say this and I gotta say this, but you know what? We don't have those here because it's my podcast, right? Jenny's podcast will have lists. Okay.
We would have an agenda.
We'd have an agenda, right? All right. Dylan? Any final thoughts? You think?
I not really. I mean, we've touched base on about everything. I mean, it's I will plug that. Electrical emphasis should go work for an electrical contractor. That we have way more work than we have people to work it.
Well, okay, that's
yeah, and along those lines too, we should talk about some of the perks of working for an electrical contractor versus. I mean, I know it is general contractors. It does depend on who you go to work for, but like Brad and I talk a lot about how when you go to work for a specialty contractor, you're generally pretty regional. It's not like, oh, here, go build this hospital, in Des Moines, and then when you're done with that, you're going to be in Omaha for 2 years, and then you're going to be in St. Louis for 3 years, and then it's like you're pretty much working in central Iowa, so you don't have to move all the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was one of the selling points for me, for Commonwealth specifically, is they have the Des Moines branch, Des Moines location. I'm originally from the Des Moines, central Iowa area, so that was nice to stay in the area. But yeah, I 100% agree. Like. The most I've ventured out was our biggest office is in Omaha, and we had a data center project over there, and I went over and worked 6 months of a summer on QAQC, and it was in the field working alongside electricians and all that stuff. So like that's the most I've really ever ventured for my work. So yeah, absolutely. Like you are much more regional. You get some of these bigger electricals, you could do some traveling, like the Cupertinos and the Rosedens and stuff like that. You could probably do some traveling, especially if you're those bigger ones, they typically division out the work. So like data centers are their own division, and they will travel.
Well, and they're usually traveling to follow one particular client.
Correct. Yeah. Yep, for sure. But yeah, so some of the smaller mid-sized electricals, you definitely are a lot more regional. You only get to work on projects within that area, which is nice. You get to see a wide variety of projects too.
Different types,
yeah. Like I've done hospital. I've worked on some industrial stuff. Data centers are heavy for us in the Des Moines local area. So yeah, you get to see all kinds of stuff, all different projects.
So are you guys hiring? Would you be needing students?
Yes, we have.
Yes.
We have, right now, we are solidified for the summer, and we have 5 interns coming.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
And so that is the most interns our Des Moines location has had ever.
Yeah. Well, electrical has a similar problem to what mechanical has, and that is our average age of the person in the industry is going up.
Oh, sure.
You know, and we need because it's the same problem at the trade level and at the engineering level, right? And it's like I'm going into the trades. Ooh, electrical, mechanical, those are really tough. You know, I'm going to, mechanical, electrical. That sounds harder than just general building emphasis. It is more technically difficult. However, I would say, most of our Connie students, if they can get into an engineering major, that they can do it. But it is sometimes a harder sell.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things on the industry panel for learning community that I've always plugged for is this. I've always felt that there's this conception of, hey, if I go to electrical emphasis, I have to do these double E classes, and they're super hard. I don't want to do that. Yeah, they're hard. But to your point, each emphasis has their own hard classes.
Yeah.
And to Jenny's point, you only have to get through them.
Right.
C's get degrees.
C's degrees.
I didn't say that necessarily.
I was going to say, I don't know if that sounds like a Jenny quote.
I might be paraphrasing.
Yeah, I might be paraphrasing. Well, she paraphrases me all the time, incorrectly, I might add. So that's, you know what? That's fair. C's get degrees. Jenny Baker. Yep, it's the way I heard it.
So yeah, no, my biggest plugs are. Electrical emphasis is fantastic. You get to work on a lot of different projects, whether you do design or project management. You generally get paid a little more than a building emphasis, and you get there is every building, every system takes electricity. You're a part of a needed workforce that's always going to be there, and so it's a little bit of a job insurance almost.
No, it is. It is because you can put up with carpet and paint that need redone. You can put up with those for a long time. Building cannot operate if you don't have the lights on and the plumbing working and air conditioning rolling and heat. What's
Dylan's looking for something so we can write it down.
Where's our record?
We need to put this on the calendar.
We need to get a copy of this.
What?
The transcript.
We need a transcript.
Okay, fine.
Brad Perkins said.
Yeah. I said and. All right. I think mechanical, electrical, kindred spirits, kind of two sides of the same coin, and we can all agree that it's better than being heavy highway, right, Renee?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so everybody knows. All right. I'm going to have Roy on to do something similar. So
nice.
Cheers. Yeah. So spread it all around.
It is all in fun. It is all
along the line of what we were saying before, but really, as technology progresses, buildings just use more and more electrical systems, power, technology.
Just
more and more and more.
They're going to get more complicated, and they're going to get weirder. Yeah. Right. Like, I mean, how many times I say that last semester, Renee? About electrical systems. When I was like, oh yeah, Renee's sitting here going ka-ching. Yeah. I mean, I did right here. See, Jenny, even in my own class, I'm plugging Renee's particular occupation.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You look like you doubt me. Renee can attest that this is true.
He did say that
multiple times.
I mean, solar's increasing, just like electrical vehicle charging at buildings now. Like everything needs more electricity.
Yeah, we don't have enough, so we got to conserve what we have and find ways to distribute what we have, and maybe find ways to generate more locally. Yeah,
and then everything that goes in a building, more and more of the things that go into the building need power. I mean, like in 353, even just furniture, like, my desk, I can stand or sit at it.
Doors.
You have to plug in the desk. And back in our day,
plug in the desk.
but I mean, everything needs power.
Yep. Right. Here, Jenny, so I'm going to say something that dates the both of us really badly. Okay. My first job at Black & Veatch, I'm designing the cooling system for an office building for a power plant. And I asked my supervisor, I'm doing the calculations, and I'm like, hey, watts per square foot for miscellaneous load. How much heat you think is going to be produced? Do you think everybody's going to have a computer? No kidding. My supervisor looks at me, grouchy old dude, and says, now what in the hell would everybody need a computer for in an office building? He's like, come on, you're right. I was like,
I am going to say, Brad, I think that dates you more than me. Because
right. You're not. Oh, come on. That was literally like, that was 97. You know, it was like you graduated, what, 2001? What was it? Yeah, it was like 4 years later. Whatever.
And now you have 2 monitors, a laptop,
for sure,
docking
exactly.
station.
Yeah, exactly. Just look at it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, but computers are getting more efficient. Yeah, but they're not getting smaller.
Right.
You know,
Totally.
it's more efficient, but more of it.
Exactly.
So, or a TV on a wall.
Yes.
In addition to your 2 monitors.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No kidding.
Right.
I mean, we
right.
need
so
one of those.
We are becoming more efficient, but we are still using
still
more
packing
power.
more in.
Because students will ask me, why do we need to account for growth? We're just being more efficient all the time. Well, we are being more efficient, but more things are using power than what used to.
So, just a little plug for that. I designed a construction office building for that data center that I'm working on, and we got into the 12208 panel, and I accounted for the loads and everything. Load-wise, we are fine. Circuitry, we ended up having to buy a double tub. Like we had to buy a whole new tub because there was so much circuitry there that we ran out of room.
Yeah.
I totally believe that. I need to have you come talk to the capstone students next semester because everybody's loading every circuit up like super full. I'm like, you're going to have breakers tripping like crazy. They're like, oh, well, the calculations you have us do said I needed, 60 circuits, but I only used 7. I'm like, do not load your circuits that heavy.
That's like,
do not load them that heavy.
Yeah.
So and now we're doing renovations to that said office building, and we still don't have enough room. So like we're having to do tandem breakers and all that stuff, which I absolutely
cringe at.
I hate.
Me too.
Hate doing that, but it's going to be out of necessity. So
all right. Okay, Jenny. Are you satisfied with
thank
the?
You. I feel like Big Hero 6. Are you satisfied with your character?
Yeah. Are you satisfied with your character today? All right. Well, I tell you what. I appreciate Dylan. Appreciate you coming in. Jenny,
I appreciate you being here.
Appreciate you taking the time and getting back late to your family. Appreciate that. Students, thank you for coming. It always makes it better when we have students to participate. Let me know which exam you want a little extra credit on, and you get a point towards the exam. All right.
Can you go back and add extra credit to one of my 352 exams?
Ooh, should I?
Remember, it's just 1 point.
Yeah, it's just 1 point. Well, but you could do on an exam though. I mean, and besides, you can do as many podcasts as I have, so you could actually go. If you went to a bunch of them, you could actually boost the grade quite a bit. So, all right. Well, that is going to wrap it up for another episode of this, I think.
Can you go back and boost one of my points?
One of yours? There's probably a form for it. There probably is a form. I probably could, but I'd have to regrade all of it then, and I don't know if you want that.
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, in that respect then, we're going to wrap it up here. So thank you very much, and we'll see you on another episode.